I want to start with you, Mr. Vickery, because you're there in Washington, and give us your sense of what the last 24 hours have meant for the U.S. presidential race. Is now Donald Trump, after what happened to him, likely to garner sympathy, likely to be able to consolidate the Republican Party and push it towards victory in 2024?
Well, thanks very much for having me. I think it has been a momentous 24 hours. I thought the president hit exactly the right notes of nonviolence, really the principles of Mahatma Gandhi, which ought to be applied not only internally in domestic politics here and in India and throughout the world, but internationally as well. Having said that, it's clear that Donald Trump is on a roll, both from the debate and today, of course, the dismissal of the documents case. But he's a consummate reality TV actor, and he has shown that again in terms of the pictures which have gone out. A lot is, of course, yet to be determined. A lot will be determined today in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, when Trump is supposed to announce his vice president candidate. If he picks somebody like Senator J.D. Vance, who has blamed this assassination attempt squarely on Biden, that takes us down a very dark road. If he gets somebody who is more moderate, adheres to some principles, then that will indicate something else. I would say that, of course, Donald Trump is in the lead now, and we are still divided. But I would say that we got another 3-4 months to go here. And we have seen from these kinds of attempted killings and killings across the United States that the public attention quickly wanes. I mean, we ought to be talking about outlawing AR-15s, getting guns off the streets. We're not talking about that and the issues at all. The hope for Joe Biden and the Democrats is that we will get back to issues. We'll get back not only to gun control, but climate change, all of those things which are existential threats to democracy. But now's the time for great democracies like the United States and India to stand together for the principles of Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and take democratic politics forward.
Raymond Vickery, let me hold you to that thought, because you named two individuals there, two great individuals, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, both of whom were assassinated tragically. So therefore, apostles of peace have often found it very difficult to control those who practice the politics of violence. John Rossomando, you're an American national security analyst. For a moment, just rewind to what happened 24 hours ago. There's now talk of the need for gun control, the need to look at the manner in which politics has divided the American people, the politics of violence has been unleashed. What's your sense of what happened 24 hours ago? Was this a lone wolf operating, or do you believe that this politics of violence has created the possibility of groups who are out there to, in a way, extract vengeance, extract retribution?
Well, let's put it this way. The blame for the assassination attempt falls squarely on the Democratic Party, which has described MAGA supporters of Donald Trump as extremists, as people who are fascists, dangerous to our society, has described President Trump as a wannabe dictator, has gone on and completely demonized the former president. I mean, the Democrats have done everything from putting together a hoax to frame President Trump as a Russian spy. And MSNBC, which is one of the more radical networks on American television, just banned one of his top programs that had been part of the bile that inspired all of this.
But isn't it true, Mr. Rossomando, that the same Donald Trump, while no one should sort of hold a candle for anyone who advocates any kind of violence, this is the same president, or this is the same former president, when as president, actually actively encouraged a political insurrection of violence for which he's
Well,
still facing charges. So he unleashed these forces of violence.
Well, excuse me, but President Trump said to go patriotically and peacefully to a protest, which is part of a democratic process. But you ended up having inadequate security at the Capitol, and you ended up having the Capitol Police put tear gas into a crowd that had not been violent up to that point, and what you ended up was a riot. Prior to then, the Democrats looked the other way. Throughout all of 2020 in the summertime, when we had over $1 billion worth of damages done by demonstrators who they supported. So the whole thing that the Democratic Party cares about political violence, it's just silly. It doesn't care about political violence.
You're saying the Democratic Party has incited political violence, because there are some reports to suggest the shooter may be someone who had a Republican background.
Well, whatever this guy said on his voter registration, but if you look at what he said on TikTok, he said that he hated Republicans, he hated conservatives. So the idea that this guy is some sort of Republican is absolutely silly.
Okay. Ajay Jain Bhuturia, your Deputy National Finance Chair, the Democratic Party and the Biden-Harris campaign. You've just heard Mr. Rossomando suggest that the Democrats have unleashed a politics of hate and violence towards Donald Trump, which has resulted, they believe, at least the language of hate and violence, and this has resulted in what we saw yesterday. Remember, Joe Biden not too long ago said Donald Trump must be stopped at all costs, a statement that might come to haunt the Democratic Party.
Well, Rajdeep, I strongly condemn this act of political violence or violence of any kind. I belong to Jainism, from where Mahatma Gandhi and then Martin Luther King took the whole concepts of non-violence. So I belong to that religions, and I strongly condemn this, and I am glad that President Trump is doing well. And I echo President Biden's message that if we settle in America differences through ballot and through voters, not through bullets. And we do have a strong, difference of policies. And the two presidencies, if we compare between Trump's presidency and Biden's presidency, there's a major difference. And President Biden has been only echoing what Trump has said recently in his speeches. And today is not the time, but I still have to say that he said that he's going to be dictator day one. He's going to ban abortion nationwide with or without Congress. He said that he's going to repeal Obamacare and take away health care from many. He also said that he's going to slash Social Security, he's going to remove FBI, and so on and on. He's going to abandon NATO. So all this combined together and many more are a threat to democracy. And that's what President Biden has been pointing out clearly, that in order to save our democracy, in order to save things, we have to defeat Trump. And that's part of the differences in the policy between the two candidates. And that's normal. The Democrats never incite violence. The violence had been incited by Trump on January 6th. What we saw, he was not ready to accept the election result even till today. And so what happened, the security lapse with the yesterday, that's very wrong. That's unacceptable. It should have never happened. A senior presidential candidate should have been more secured. But at the same time, there's a difference in the policies, and that will continue through next 3 months. And we'll see that.
Let me stop you for a moment. Meera Shankar, you're listening to these voices coming in from the United States, and they reflect what has been happening in the United States over the last several months. The growing polarization in that country between those who want Donald Trump as president, those who don't want him. He's become this polarizing figure. How do you see the assassination attempt changing that? This underlying sense of violence, of deep divides between liberal voices and right-wing voices in the United States in the build-up now to the 2024 presidential race there?
Well, clearly the US is highly polarized politically at this juncture. And we've seen that in the very sharp rhetoric and invective which has been apparent during this contest. In the past, too, there have been periods when the US has been more polarized than today, For instance, in the 60s, when there was this whole issue of civil rights and enforcing an end to segregation. And you saw the assassination of, John Kennedy, of Martin Luther King, and of Bobby Kennedy, because emotions and opinions were so fraught on this issue. Go back further to the abolition of slavery, which eventually led to a civil war in the United States, and finally to the assassination of President Lincoln. In recent years, recent decades, I think levels of political polarization had come down. But in the last 10, 15 years, we've seen, again, a rise in polarization and differences on a range of policy issues, from immigration to taxation to climate change. You see...
But there's a difference between having differences on policy issues, but the personalization of politics. Isn't that the troubling aspect now? It's very personal and therefore very bitter and polarized.
Yes, it is. And I think following the assassination attempt, President Biden has made an effort to calm things down, to say that there can be no place for political violence in the United States, that differences must be settled through the ballot box, and political contests cannot be a battlefield, much less a killing field. And this is the time for America to come together. President Trump has surprisingly also echoed similar sentiments when he said that he's redrafting his speech for the Republican convention, because earlier he was planning to attack Joe Biden's policies, but now he's going to make a call for Americans to come together and be united. I mean, we still have to wait and see what he says, but it's a moment where both the leaders are reflecting on the need to lower the rhetoric and to cool temperatures.
That's a good point.